In this episode of Adulting is Easy and Other Lies, we talk about what happens when the life you're holding together doesn't always feel as seamless as it looks from the outside. If you've ever felt like you're just trying to keep up or figure things out as you go, you're not alone. This is your reminder that the highlight reel isn't the whole story. Before sharing the stories of others, I'm sharing some of my own, from entrepreneurship and motherhood to navigating setbacks, self-doubt, and the pressure to keep everything moving. I've spent a lot of time trying to be what everyone else needed me to be. This episode is about the reality behind the roles we play, the lessons you only learn while you're in it, and what it means to rebuild while still showing up. Because sometimes the most honest thing you can do is admit that you're just still figuring it out. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Adulting is Easy and Other Lies podcast. I am your host, Kara, and I am so happy to have you back for our second season. So today, it's just me. No guests, no back and forth, just a quieter kind of conversation, a moment to speak plainly about who I am and why this space exists. For a long time, excuse me, I have a piece of hair. For a long time, I thought I had to wait until things made more sense, wait until life felt more settled, wait until I had the right words or the right ending or some kind of clarity I could stand on. But life doesn't really offer that kind of timing. It moves while you're still trying to understand it. So this podcast didn't start from resolution. It started from everything I didn't know how to say out loud while I was living it. And this is me reintroducing myself to you. So I'm someone who's lived through seasons of my life where my body changed to the pace of my life, where I had to learn that energy is not something that you can force, that capacity is not something you can always predict, and that okay doesn't always look the way that other people expect it to. I've also lived through a grief so deep that it didn't just arrive and then leave, but it rearranged how I understand time itself, how I understand presence, how I understand what it means to love someone who's no longer here in the same way that they once were. And somewhere in all of that, I became someone who stopped believing in a perfectly linear story, because mine certainly hasn't been one. But it has been real. And I think that what it's given me more than anything is honesty. A quieter kind of honesty, one that lives underneath everything else. There are moments in my life that feel like they divided everything into the before and the after. One of them is my health, which I talk a lot about. It changed how I move through the world, not just physically, but internally. It asked me to slow down in ways that I didn't choose, and to redefine what I thought strength was. I used to think that strength meant just pushing through, but I've learned that it can also mean listening. It can also mean stopping. It can mean admitting that you're not meant to carry everything in the same way all of the time. Another one of those moments that divided things into the before and the after was losing my brother. It's hard to put that one into words that will ever feel like enough, because it didn't just become something that happened in my life. it became something that I now carry through every moment of my life. It changed how I understand connection, how suddenly and quietly life can shift shape, how someone can be a part of your everyday world and then exist differently and yet still so profoundly. It doesn't get smaller with time. It just becomes part of how you move through everything else coming forward. And I don't share these things as two separate chapters. I share them because they're both big things that changed the way that I see everything that came after. They changed how I listen. They changed how I hold space, not just for others, but for myself. And it changed how I understand people who are still in the middle of their own becoming. For a long time, I waited for life to feel more complete before I spoke about it, as if I needed a final version of my story before I could share any of it, even a chapter. But I don't believe that anymore. I think that most of life happens in the middle. The unfinished parts, in the not knowing, in the places where things are still unfolding and nothing has resolved into something neat or easy to explain. This podcast is my way of staying there, in that middle space where the meat of it is. Not rushing towards answers, not trying to smooth everything out into perfection, but sitting with what is real, even if what is real is still in motion. Conversations about identity, conversations about survival, about grief, about just becoming. Not as concepts, but more as lived experience from other people. If you're here, you can expect honesty. Not polished versions of people, not perfectly packaged lessons. Just real conversations that move like real life does. Sometimes heavy, sometimes light, often both at the same time. We'll talk about becoming, about losing, about rebuilding, about all the ways that people try to make sense of themselves in the middle of everything else. And the intention is always going to be the same. Honesty over performance, presence over perfection, and curiosity over certainty. So this is where we start, not from resolution, but from reality, from everything that is still unfolding. I'm glad you're here. Let's begin.